Hello and welcome back to this video tour of an example course I developed for my portfolio. This is a project that started in a course I took for Penn State's e-learning design certificate, and I decided to just flesh this out a little bit more as if it were a real course. However, this was just a practice course. In my previous video, I talked a little bit about an overview of the course, the overall learning objectives and learning goals, and how that was kind of broken down into the different lessons, what the workload and expectations are, and we just kind of went through the welcome module. Today we're going to dive into lesson 1, and we'll start by clicking here on the lesson 1 learning objectives. So you can see here that the specific learning objectives for this lesson are to define and integrate key concepts of climate change, greenhouse gases, greenhouse effect, and global warming. So some of that knowledge acquisition, to list and describe the impacts of climate change, to examine personal beliefs and emotions around climate change, and to reflect on personal stories related to the negative impacts of climate change. So moving along here, we can see that we have kind of the course introduction here. As you can see, it has some specific information on key terms that have been bolded. There's a few images here that were taken from copyright-free sites. I like unsplash.com in particular, and they have alt text on them to describe what the image is showing and also to source the image, although it is a copyright-free image. And then we have here just kind of some writing that introduces the topic in a more kind of emotional and, how it affects all of our lives today. I actually thought really carefully and worked really hard on how I worded things here, because I felt like it was really important to set a specific tone when learners step into this course. Obviously, this is a controversial topic that I think has a lot of overwhelming emotions today. And I really wanted to strike a balance between, talking about why this topic is important, how it affects all of us, that it does affect all of us, but not in a way that could come across as overwhelming or hopeless. I wanted to really kind of strike a problem-solving tone that, this is a big problem that needs solutions. However, human species and us as human beings and individual learners, we also have a lot of resourcefulness and the ability to find and implement solutions. So the first part of the overall course talks about the problem, which is what this lesson is on, but it's not a problem devoid of solutions. And that's something that I really wanted to kind of emphasize here, that to solve this crisis, we can all work together to use solutions and overcome our problems. So moving on, here is in every lesson, there will be an assignments page. So for this lesson, actually, is a little bit of a combination of a content page and an assignment page. There's some reading that they will need to do at the top, and then it has links to the reading for this lesson, as well as videos that they can watch. So I also thought a lot about how to order the different lesson topics. For a while, I thought just kind of in a sequential, logical progression way, it made sense to talk about the causes first, which is the greenhouse gases and the greenhouse effect. I thought about going into more detail on those greenhouse gases, but ultimately I decided to keep that information in lesson 2 because I felt like in order to kind of get people latched into this problem, it was really important to talk about the emotional human impact of the issue. So for that reason, and I did find research that said that personal narratives and kind of the emotional piece is really important for motivating people to care about and want to take part in fighting back against climate change. So for this assignment, I found videos on YouTube. I was really careful to find videos that are important and, don't run away from the effects of climate change, but are not, something that would overcome a censor or anything like that. Like there were some videos I found that were a little bit graphic, so I left those out. And I was left with these videos, and I decided for this topic that I didn't want them to watch every single video, although they can, but that the requirement for the assignment was just to watch at least about half of them. And then in this discussion, I want them to talk about the videos that they watched and actually share information, so that hypothetically people could be describing, the videos that someone else didn't watch, describing the video to them and discussing it them, and kind of that knowledge sharing, information sharing piece of the puzzle. So that would be this first lesson here. There's that discussion. And then on the very last page here, there is a final project that's pretty important to talk about. I wanted to talk about as early as possible within the design of the course, so that students are aware of it and can start preparing, because it's probably the biggest piece of the course that has the highest workload, and it's probably not something that, if you leave it go to the last week or two, it's going to feel overwhelming. But if they start to do just little steps and pieces along the way, and even in this first lesson, just thinking actively about it and what they might want to do and discussing what they might want to do, then it's something that will be a lot more manageable. So for this, I wanted them to just actively take part in something to do with climate change. I thought a lot about, how rigid I should be with the expectations. It felt like, you want to strike that balance between not constraining creativity, but also making sure that this is representing like a substantial effort on the part of the learner. So, for example, some examples of a final project in taking action would be to write, different letters to different policymakers, to sign, not just one petition, but a number of petitions, and kind of show that you have research and knowledge and awareness of what those petitions are saying and how they're affecting things, or to even go as far to circulate your own petition. To spend some time volunteering, to kind of get involved in the digital advocacy by creating a hashtag. Those are just some of the different ideas that people can have. And I was kind of hoping that, if this were to be a real course, that there would be a lot of ideas and creative projects that people could come up with that I wouldn't even be able to think of. The other thing I struggled with the assignment is if it should be a solo project or a group project. Because in the prompt for this project in the original class where I developed this project as my final project, it was described as a mandatory 1-credit course. So I thought that might kind of pull in people that have different levels of interest and passion for this topic. And I felt like that could kind of draw in a lot of people. And, when you want to do, for example, a group project, for some people that's kind of more easier because you're separating the work so it's more manageable. But then at the same time, there can be a lot of organization that needs to happen between people. And if you're taking 3 other courses as part of your mandatory course load, and then also this other course, kind of managing that group communication might be or might not be something you want to take on. At the same time, I feel like this topic is something where you want to have it open that they could do it as a group project, because a lot of the solutions that are being developed for it are going to be socially based. There's a lot of social learning around it. It's something that people can really organize around. So in the end, I decided that, if people just want to do a solo project on their own time and that's more manageable, that's fine. But if people who are maybe already active together or end up meeting each other through this course want to take it on as a group project, I wanted it to be flexible, that students could have both of those opportunities. So in the end, this ended up being a very flexible assignment, but still having expectations to represent, a substantial effort on the part of the learner, whatever they decide to do, or if they decide to work on their own or in a group. So that is, I believe, all of the information for lesson 1. Thank you so much for your time and attention today in going on this video tour with me. In my next video, I'll dive more into lesson 2, which has a little more written content going on. I appreciate, again, the time and attention, and I hope you have a wonderful day.